You're listening to the Nature's Image Farm podcast. I'm your host, Greg Burns, and we're talking bees, homesteading, and the old-time ways. This episode is brought to you by EnduraHive wax-dipped equipment. No paint, no rot, no hassle. EnduraHive. Built to endure. Now, on to the show. Well, hey guys, welcome back to another Stream Team Beekeeping Chat. I'm Greg Burns. We've got Bruce Jenne down in Dothan, Alabama, and we'll be joined by our friend Brian Koper from Castle Hives up in Northeast Ohio. Hope everyone is having a great spring, and hope the bees are getting busy. A lot has changed in the last week, Bruce, and I think we're going to start talking about that tonight. But I want to thank everyone for joining us once again, 3.5 years later, every Wednesday night. We've only missed a handful. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure to spend so much time with all of our beekeeping friends, just checking in, talking about life, talking about bees, and it's just been a lot of fun. Tonight, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk and kind of talk with the folks that are here in the comments and get them involved in tonight's conversation. I want to do a check-in and see where everybody is with the honey flow, and I thought it'd be a great time to be able to check in with folks all across the USA and check in to see where the honey flow is. Is there a honey flow going on where you're at? How was the spring flow? Was it a complete bust or did you hit? Are you still currently in a spring flow, depending on where you're at in the country? Or have you moved on to the summer flow? And what is that kind of looking like? So the main objective tonight is to check in with all of you to see where are you with the honey flow, and maybe that'll help our neighbors, neighboring friends in different states, different parts of the country, maybe cue in and hopefully give them some hope. Maybe the flow's coming to town soon. So Brian will get on tonight, and we are going to attempt to post a join link. Now, there's no way in the world we'll be able to get everybody on the screen and talk to them. But we're going to do our best to get some folks on and just check in and have a little conversation and see where are you at with the flow. So that's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of things have changed here. Bruce, let's talk about locally in our apiaries, kind of what has been going on in the last week. So Bruce, down in Dothan, Alabama, tell us all about Bruce's bees and where you're at with the honey flow.
Well, we're actually, I think, coming on the tail end of ours. But I've mentioned before, we had a decent spring flow. Everything's been a little bit late this year. We had a pretty good spring flow. We harvested, I think, about what we got last year. We had 34 5-gallon buckets. I think that's something like 175 gallons. Is that right? Something like that. Anyway, it was a fair amount of honey, right at a ton, maybe a little bit more than a ton of honey for our first honey harvest back in. It was the weekend after Mother's Day, and the hope was to get the supers back on the hives and let them fill them up. And the day we pulled our spring honey crop, the day we were pulling the honey off the hives, I saw bees starting to work that Chinese tallow, otherwise known as popcorn trees here in the South. And they put it in. That flow has been tremendous. They've packed it in fast and furious. I think it's about to be done down here. But I went through the last couple of weeks. I've been just kind of checking the hives, seeing how they're doing. I think it was 3 weeks ago I went and I robbed from the poor, gave to the rich. I don't know, I think it was either 2 or 3 weeks ago, something like that. Anyway, and they pretty much, I went out this past weekend and checked, and they, the strong colonies had pretty much packed the supers that I pulled off of the weaker ones under the strong ones and packed them out with honey. A lot of the honey is capped. A little bit of it wasn't. I didn't go all the way through the honey supers, but from what I could tell, they're just, when you crack the lid and you got those patty rims on those lids, and then it's completely full of honey up in there. the bees have been just bringing it in hard, fast and furious. And so I've got a video that is almost ready to upload here in the next day or two that actually shows that experience. I went at a point this past weekend when I was in them to check on the simple comb that I put in there. So that'll be in the video. Mixed reviews on that. I checked 2 hives, and just a spoilers alert, because it's just you and me on here, Greg, right?
Right.
One of the colonies did a pretty darn good job with it. The other one didn't do a real good job with it, and I think I know why. And watch the video. Hopefully I'll explain it good enough in the video to be able to let folks know kind of how it went. I think that it's really neat stuff, but it is kind of tricky to use, and I think I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. But if you watch that video that I put out in the next day or two on that has simple, it's not just all about the simple comb. It's mainly about a check-in on the honey crop and how it's looking. But I did address the simple comb in the video. Watch both of the hives that I cracked open. To be honest, the first one did not do that well. The second one did quite well, and so there I kind of had them set up differently, and so I show that in the colony in the video. Now I've got several hives that have it on there, but I showed 2 of them, and so that's what's been going on here. The honey crop I think is going to be really good. I'm not sure if we'll have quite as much as last year. We may have pretty close to it. Every single box of comb that I have of medium frames is on a beehive right now, and I think almost all of them are full. I did put a few boxes of empty, brand new foundation on, like 10 days or 11 days before I checked it this past weekend. And I also peeked in on one of those boxes in the video, and I think it was getting towards the tail end of the flow. And so they didn't do too much with that. And some of that, and I explained why, it was some old Pierco frames that are a few years old that I probably should have rewaxed. And so they just didn't jump on it very quickly. However, I did check this is interesting. If you saw my most recent video that dropped, it was the video on the infinity frames that I dropped on the top of a colony, really tall colony that was full of honey. And I think there were 4 or 5 supers on there, and I dropped that box of infinity frames on there even later than I did the other stuff, and even later than I did the other foundation. And I did a little short video on that, and they were drawing that stuff out amazingly well. Perfect. No wonky comb, no nothing. It just looked really good. And so I think, we had Michael on here from Infinity Frames 21st B a few weeks ago. Brian and I were on here that night. And Greg, I think you had something else going on that night. But man, I'm kind of a believer in that stuff. It is pricey, but I'm talking about the bees just jumped on it. In 5 days, they had it significantly drawn out towards the end of the honey flow. And so that's what's going on here. We're going to pull honey. We're going to actually harvest, not this coming weekend, but next weekend, the 20th and 21st, we're going to pull and we're going to extract. We got some guests coming in from other states to help us out, and it's going to be a lot of fun. 2 or 3 of these guys are actually on YouTube, and the other guy is just coming down. A friend I made, or a fellow I met from Tennessee up at the expo. Him and his wife are going to drive down and help us out. Plus, we have some good local help. We have, I think Lisa is going to try to help out if she can, and some other local folks are going to help us out. So, of course, Rusty will be there, and some others. And so it should be a lot of fun, a lot of good fellowship, and just a neat experience for us all. But it's going to be hard work combined with good fellowship. So we're looking forward to that. But that's where we are right here in Southeast Alabama. The honey flow is nearly over. It's been a really good one right here in this pocket of the state. Other parts of the state have struggled. Although I did see, I think Dennis Sherrill was on here earlier. He said they're still having a pretty significant flow there, but they're a couple of hours north of us. So you'd expect them to probably be about a week or 2 behind us, about a week behind us probably. So they're still having a pretty heavy nectar flow coming in. We probably still have a little bit coming in, but I think we're about to wrap it up.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a great next couple weeks for you. I really want to be able to come down and join you guys. Had some things pop up here. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but things have really turned a corner here. So I'm looking forward to talking a little bit more about that. It's going to put us in a position where we're going to be a little bit tied down here for a couple reasons, but that's a good thing. Let's check in with the one and only Brian Koper, Castle Hives.
There he is.
What's up?
What's Bruce doing?
Trying to get my thing to do that.
Sparkles, glitter, balloons. Look at that. Thumbs up.
He's got all kind of stuff coming.
Look at that.
There's the balloons.
How do you guys do that? What do you have to do that?
There's a setting on your Mac. You probably haven't updated your Mac in a little while.
Oh, is that the wiretap function? No, I have that turned off. If that's what you have to engage.
If you go into the video, like when you're on StreamYard connected, the very top bar where it shows like the green camera, if you go in there, there's like a reactions thing that you turn on.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out a little bit later. I think
that, then it's probably just an update.
You know, I'm usually like the last adopter of the updates. But Brian, I know you got in here a little bit ago. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to be checking in with folks all across the country. So this is going to be a listener-supported podcast tonight. And what I need Brian to do, a couple things, Brian. I need you, buddy. I'm glad you're here. All right, number one, we need an update from you to let us know where the bees are right now as far as the flow. Is the flow at your door? Is it showing up? What are you looking like? And then after you give us that update, I'll update everybody. And then what we're going to do is I'd like for you to post a join link to this stream. Now we're not going to be able to get everybody on here. There's no way we're going to be able to do that.
Everybody join. Everybody.
Stop it, Brian. We can't handle that. The whole place it'll be down. There'll be rioting in the streets. It's gonna be not good.
The Marines. We're gonna take care of everything. It's gonna be the greatest Marines ever.
Well done, Brian. Well done. We're gonna try to get some folks on from different parts of the country to tune in and kind of give us an update on flow situations where they're at. So, Brian. Yes. Spring flow.
Yep.
Boom or bust.
Can I share something? I want to share.
Brian, you share away. You are the third and equal host of the Stream Team Beekeeping Chat. You can do whatever you want to. While you do that, I am going to crack open.
Look at that.
Some liquid courage here.
That's all I'm going to share is that picture right there. What do you got there?
Good, man.
Oh, look
yes,
at that.
honey, sweet apple. Okay.
Yes.
Look at that. Would you look at that?
I see is that a copper dip box or just an older box?
Two copper infused boxes.
Nice.
I see two brand new EnduraHive wax dipped boxes. And then the other one is just an older box. That one is in Nature's Image, though. I think all my boxes that are out there now, other than one colony in the Apamaze, they all have those stamps on it that say Nature's Image or EnduraHive.
EnduraHive, wax dip. Brian, remember, if it doesn't have our brand, it doesn't meet the mark. Okay, what's going on here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes stacked up, Brian. We just had a conversation last week where the flow wasn't looking so good. It was a complete bust.
So I'll tell
what happened.
I went over there on I don't even know what day it was. Monday. Let me see. Tuesday. I don't know. When did I post that picture? So 24 hours ago, 22 hours ago. So that would have been yesterday. I went over just to check on some things, and I had stacked up some boxes just to stay ahead of them as far as room. You know, you never know. I mean, it could be a bust. They could produce a decent crop. You never know. So the configuration that I have there, the deep that's on the very bottom, that is my brood chamber. And then I've got a queen excluder on there. So it's single brood. The very next box that is the copper infused medium, that is their box. I will never harvest that box. So that will always stay on there. And it is filled. So when I lifted it off, it is filled. I mean, I could probably extract that super if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. That's their food. The other 3 supers that are above that, 2 of those are filled.
Wow.
So I under supered the newer one that is just above the copper infused. I put that on there, but all 10 frames in that box, they are all drawn comb.
Wow.
So they don't have to work on anything. It's just boom, boom, boom. Now, I'm expecting to go over there tomorrow or the next day, and I'm probably just going to look in that box. If I see that they're throwing nectar in there, if I see 2, 3, 4 frames of nectar, then I'm going to throw another box on there just to stay ahead of it. That way they've got room. So, but they're pretty much now, that is my largest colony. And there are literally bees in every box. I opened that up, and before I had put the 4th super, the 5th box on there, when I cracked that lid, there were literally bees across every frame. And I took one look and I thought, oh my gosh. So I went, I lifted the first box off, heavy, lifted the second one, heavy. And I was just like, okay, girls, you kicked it into gear. My other 2 colonies, I did not check, but they had some weight on them before. Now, it was nothing to shake a stick at, but I'm expecting that when I go over there tomorrow, I've got to go over tomorrow to do some other secret work. But I'm just basically going to lift those boxes. If there's a decent amount of weight on them, I'm going to add supers onto those other colonies there too. So I figure I've probably got, I'm probably going to get at least 8 or 9 supers. I'm thinking out of those colonies. You figure I had 3 survivor colonies, and for me to have all those boxes getting filled up, it's amazing. Literally.
When was the last time that you were in those boxes, Brian?
Those supers, it's probably been 8, 9 days. So tomorrow will be about 10 days, about a week and a half.
Okay.
So
do you have any capped honey in there yet, or is it just ripening?
So the box that is directly above my brood chambers, it had capped honey.
Wow.
And there were some others. So now the capped honey that's in that very first super, that's some of it is left over from last year, so that they just didn't touch. I'm not going to extract it. I just leave it for them. But the other boxes did have a little bit, and like I said, it wasn't anything to like shake a stick at. Let's just put it this way. 2 weeks ago, I wasn't impressed with what I saw. For where I was at, you figure the ending of May, I wasn't impressed. When I checked them, I think it was May 25th. So the day before Memorial Day. I wasn't really impressed with what I saw. Now, a week after that, I saw, when I was looking in my supers, I would pull a frame and there would be like spotty nectar. Now I saw like, okay, there was nectar coming in, and I would pull a super and there would be 50 cells on a frame that were filled with wet nectar. And I thought, okay, there's a little bit of something coming in. And I was content with that. I thought it's fine if there's enough coming in that they're throwing in a couple cells here and there of nectar. It's satisfying their needs and they're storing a little bit of extra. And I thought that's fine. Now we get to this point, we're from May 25th to this point here. What are we? 2.5 weeks later? It's night and day. They are bringing it in.
What changed? What changed?
Well, so I'll tell you, up here, the weather was a huge factor, because in May, we had around 8 inches of rain in Northeast Ohio. Like on my rain gauge that I have, that weather system I have, I forget where we were at, like 8.0 whatever inches. Our normal amount of precipitation for May is 3.9 inches. And also our average temperature for May, they said just looking at the trends in that, was 10 degrees cooler than normal. Now, you take that to like where we're at right now. Today, we were 81 degrees and sunny. So the last few days the temps have been normal, where we should be, upper 70s. We do have, like, tomorrow, I think it's going to be 85. And, you know, they said scattered, like, I think we have like a 10% chance of precipitation. So really it's, you know, I don't even really look at that when they say 10%. But it's the weather. You know, the weather, basically, it went from, you know, we went for a period, I think we were, what, 6 or 7 or so days of straight rain. I mean, you know, you probably had about the same thing. It was just that steady rain every day, and they cannot get out. You know, when you have Mother Nature, that you've got the precipitation, so the plants have what they need. It just needs to stop raining so that the flowers can open up and everything can, you know, get on like they're supposed to. But the colonies now, even I'll tell you, like the packages that I got off of you, April, I could look up the date. I think we've been 5 or so weeks the packages have been in at this point. I think Monday was 5 weeks. They are working that first super. All of them now have.
That's impossible, Brian. Package bees can't make it out of the first year.
They're garbage.
There's no way.
But they all have their significant enough population that the deep is the whole, you know, all the frames pretty much. There's one that has like 2 frames that are not all the way drawn out. But I'm kind of equalizing some things in the apiary with some. So I'm just going to shift over a frame and fill one of those. But like that colony there, when I checked it on Tuesday, it had 4 frames, literally sheets, both sides, edge to edge brood. Now you figure that hatches out, that emerges out. And so those were the solid frames. Now that's not including the larvae, the younger, you know, the eggs and all that were in there as well. So you figure in 3 to 4 weeks, that colony, from being on like 6 or 7 frames, it's going to fill the deep plus a medium.
What's in bloom right now in Northeast Ohio?
Our blackberries are about done. The black locust, like, I haven't really seen any, but my mom did say, she said, I hope this weather stays this way because the locust is in bloom. We have clover like you would not believe, literally everywhere. I drove down, and when I was coming, now white clover.
Mm-hmm.
When I was coming down home the other day, I drove by the one reservoir, Meander Reservoir, that's up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I stop, and like there's areas where they do not mow just because it's maintained by the water district. And I looked over, and literally the entire side of the road, it was white, just solid clover. Our yard, I hated yesterday. I mowed after work. I got out there and mowed, and you know, Tara doesn't listen to this, but I mowed it on a higher setting. That way the clover wouldn't get touched that much. But our yard is literally, if you look out, it is a sea of white clover.
Wow.
So, and with all that rain that we've had, now we've got upper 70s, like right now it's 76. I've seen bees all over. Like when I was mowing, I was literally doing the thing where I swerve over a little bit and get off of there, girl, because I was seeing the bees in the yard. So I think if the weather stays like it is, I think my normal, like, end of June, like around the 1st of July extraction, I think I'll do pretty good.
Yeah. It's not that far away if you really think about it, is it?
No. I mean, 2 weeks, but you figure if the weather stays like this, I mean, 2 weeks, they can pack it in. I mean, I could.
Well, you already have it in. They're drawing comb.
Yeah.
They're ripening honey. They've got some capped honey in there.
Yeah.
So Northeast Ohio, your blackberries are on their way out. Locusts are the same. And then the ground game's coming in. So you're officially okay. So that's a good update. A lot has changed in the last week here in East Central Ohio. We're only, what, 2 hours from you, Brian?
Yeah, roughly 2 hours and 9 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So,
so 2 hours.
in our neck of the woods, the blackberry has been long gone. The right when it was getting ready to actually produce, we had the torrential rain for many days, and that was done. Black locust was a total bust. Multiflora rose came in, very fragrant. That was on, and then both of the honeysuckle bush and honeysuckle vine did come in, and I actually watched our bees hit both. And you'll hear people arguing all the time that, well, bees don't work honeysuckle. Well, that's not true. I just watched them spend their time meticulously combing through both the small flower of the honeysuckle bush and the very elegant, large, open flower of the honeysuckle vine. And I would actually watch our bees would go right into the big part of it. And matter of fact, Brian, when you were here, we cruised around on the buggy, and watched them do just that.
So, Greg, I hate to interrupt you. When I got home, so when we drove out through your fields and we're looking at all that stuff, and when what I thought was just like dust and stuff and like debris from the grass that was coming up, and then here it was pollen. Remember when Susie went up and was like, "What is on that?" And I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I left 15 minutes after that. By the time I got home, let me see if I've got a picture. It was no bueno, so to say. Let me see. Yeah, I killed the picture. My my allergies kicked in. And by the time I got home, it literally looked like somebody punched me. Both of my eyes were almost swelled shut.
Oh my gosh.
I had to go and then take Zyrtec and get eye drops and all this stuff. And just today is the first day since then that my eyes are not swollen.
And that was just from the ride here in the pastures?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I got home and Tara looked at me and she was like, "What the heck did you do?" Yeah.
All right. So what is the pollen situation looking like in Northeast Ohio?
It's not as thick as your field.
Not as thick as our field. Well, that's good.
Yeah. But when we were out there, what was that we saw that the bees were going in? Was that the honeysuckle?
Honeysuckle. Yeah. The honeysuckle vine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They were going in that, and they were hitting that. And a lot of folks say, well, they don't do that. It's well, I mean, people say a lot of things, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's one thing that I've been thinking about before we move on, and here shortly, Brian, if you would, Brian, go ahead and post a join link for folks in the comment, or pin it to the top here if you know how to do that, and we'll have some folks kind of start stacking in here, and we'll start to get some updates from across the country. But it's absolutely amazing how fast things change, and it's I've been thinking a lot about this too. Is we were not in a real good place with forage. Matter of fact, the bees they built up on the autumn olive flow, and they started to brood up nicely. And they were living hand to mouth after they were getting the brood nests built up. And the brood nests were very healthy. They looked very good, but you could just see them living hand to mouth to maintain that. And when you're in your colonies enough, you see that, and you pick up on that, and you're looking for, at a time of abundance, you're looking for them to start to make those gains, that forward momentum, and they're just not doing it. And it's very discouraging coming off of last season. And we talked about this last week. We were maybe just have finished or getting ready to finish the last full annual cycle of doom when it comes to maybe bees and forage and things. And I got to read this because this is where my mind sort of went. I won't take time to read the whole entire thing. I'll read a little bit, and then I'll paraphrase here. a little bit. But let's check this out here for a second. This is in Matthew chapter 6, right here, verse 26. But behold the fowls of the air, for they neither do they reap nor gather or store in barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much better than they? It goes on and says, seek ye the kingdom, and all of these things will be added unto you. Seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things are added unto you. I said all these things, not some of the things, not half the things, part of the time. When I watch the birds and they're going to and fro and they're feeding and they're foraging and they're doing all of the things, they're not worried about, they're just living in that moment, and the Lord provides all the time for them. And it reminds me that God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. And here we are waiting on these flows, and we're hinging on these things, and we're putting all this extra thought into stuff and thinking way too far, way too ahead, and then, oh, it's not going to come, or it was so bad then, or now it's going to be here, and we're worried the bee's going to go without, and we start to get in there, and we just look, and what we did is we saw that the bees were living a little bit too close to hand to mouth. So on some of those colonies that we were not going to be producing honey on, we went and fed them a gallon of syrup. We fed them that gallon of syrup, and that helped them get past that hand to mouth moment. They could just build up just enough. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, just like as soon as the rain stopped, it got nice and warm and very, very sunny. And then all of a sudden, everything exploded. And the bees were just bringing nectar and bringing pollen. And it felt like a miracle when you're looking at so much wanting and such a lack of pollen and a lack of nectar. And there's all this worrying, and you're just trusting. Now, this might sound like, well, what are you talking about? How could you be so over the top about whether or not your bees are eating? Let me help maybe paint this picture briefly. You know, when bees are your business and them growing and brooding and being healthy and moving forward and drawing wax and producing a honey crop and producing brood and producing beautiful beautiful, healthy, abundant queen cells when you're grafting, all of these things are hinging on weather and nature, and so little is hinged on you. You very quickly have to learn to trust, to do your best, and just keep moving forward. And that's what we did. All of a sudden, it was like God turned the lights on, and boom, everything hit. And I'm in deep boxes that are full of honey. I'm in medium supers that are full of honey. And all of a sudden, it's just a good reminder, to behold, to consider the fowls of the air. They toil not, they store not. They're not storing in barns, but the Lord provides all of their needs. He's doing the same thing for us, doing the same thing for our honeybees. And so it's a great little lesson in trust. And so that's kind of where I have been with all of this, and things are really starting to turn the corner. All of a sudden, the white clover, the red clover, the yellow clover, the trefoil. We've got what else is in the even the plantain was blooming. Things are really starting to turn a corner, and we can see it with the bees. They're happy. There's a luster there. They're bringing everything in. Everything's moving forward and moving together forward quickly. And that is such an exciting thing.
Hey, Greg, I had a thought while you were talking. Both you and Brian this year have both talked about the rain and all the problems with the honey flow, and how the honey flow is probably going to be a bust. But, every time you've talked also, you've both mentioned the bees looked healthy. They had brood. They had, they were, like you just said, living, hand to mouth, but they still were strong. They weren't like brooding way back. Like there was, dearth, they'll brood back. So maybe those bees just had a little bit of an instinct, and they knew that something was coming, and so they were ready when that flow hit. We're all worried about it, but typically, if there truly is a dearth, if there truly is a really stressful time on the bees, typically they'll, especially those Caucasians you have, they'll just brood way back, won't they? So maybe those bees just they just knew, maybe Mother Nature and the Lord, like you say, he was taking care of them. He knew, and they knew that this was coming. And so that's a really cool thing to think about. You said you fed them and gave them a boost, but You know, Brian, I don't know how much you fed yours, but the fact is they stayed strong enough to be able to take advantage of this flow, and they kind of were peaking at the right time, even though it seemed like there was going to be a complete bust. And so that's a pretty cool story to think about there as well. You know they have that instinct and they do what they need to do. And sometimes we try to read everything. We try to read the tea leaves, so to speak. We try to read nature, and sometimes we just don't know.
Yeah.
Nope. And I think that's what brings so many of us back to these bugs in a box. What is it about these bugs in a box? Well, I've said it a million times, but bees are the greatest humbler I've ever known. Never do they cease to teach, and never do I cease to learn something about me or my walk or the bees every single year. But
you know, I'll tell you though, this year so far, from when I got everything set up and ready to getting the packages, getting them in, doing the couple splits that I've done so far, I haven't really, to be honest, like, I was looking at the weather and I'm thinking, you know what? If this was a traditional year and I wasn't going to be as focused on just boosting my numbers, yes, I would have probably been more concerned about the weather and things like that. But I had already said I'm sacrificing a lot of my honey crop. I just want to build up strong colonies. So to be honest, like, it hasn't really bothered my nerves, so to say, for what has taken place. That's why, like, the other day when I left the yard and I had to add in some supers to the colonies and I'm stacking that one up, I literally was driving away and I'm like, this is awesome. It's just, everything is kind of, I look back as I'm walking away from the yard and I'm like, man, I got colonies here that are going to produce honey for me. I've got other colonies that are all growing. It's just like, I somewhat am in like just at peace about it all.
Yeah. Well, that's the main. I think a lot of times that's a pretty good identifying marker. Is if things, no matter how they're going, if you have a certain peace about it, we know where that peace comes from, and that's a really huge thing as we face any kind of adversity with family, life, jobs, bees, farm, you name it. But it's such a. I think that's one of the things that I love about the bees is like right now, I'm absolutely covered in propolis. It's everything is sticky. My clothes are a wreck, absolutely covered in just bee gunk. But working day in and day out for the last couple of weeks, just nonstop out there with the bees, moving everything forward, getting all the nukes ready, doing all those things, is just it's been an absolute reminder that all of this is just way bigger than us, way bigger than we can truly understand, and it's absolutely one of the greatest gifts I think that we have is to just be keepers of these bees and just to be here in these moments to try to take in whatever all of this really is in just those few moments. So if you're just tuning in, we're checking in with beekeepers across the entire country to see what's going on with the honey flow. Was the spring flow a bust? Are you in a summer flow? And what is the flow looking like for you in your neck of the woods? Sounds like here in Ohio, in East Central Ohio, where we're at here at Nature's Image Farm, and where Brian is in Northeast Ohio, we are entering into the beginning of the summer flow. Spring flow was nearly a complete bust, with exception of maybe some autumn olive and some very early blooming things, but no honey crop. Early summer Ohio report looks as though we may do pretty well on clover as long as we continue to get some of these warm days ahead. We've had plenty of rain, I think, to keep the root system of clover going. And the way things are looking, if we can continue to get rain and warm and rain and warm at the right times, maybe we'll have a heavy clover crop. That's yet to be seen. That's where we're at in Ohio. Down in Alabama, Bruce, where you're at, you are already past the early part of the summer flow, going into you're probably peak flow has already occurred for you, or you're peak flow's occurred. and you get
So we're
your
probably
soon
about done, to be
about
honest.
done on your summer flow, and you'll be harvesting in the next week or two.
Yeah, probably got it. Yeah, we're gonna harvest in about 9 days.
Okay, so we're just
So
getting started, and you're nearly done. So
that's right.
let's check in. Let's go west. Let's go west from here and check in with some folks. So if you're tuning in, Brian has the link to join this conversation pinned at the top of the comments here. So if you are tuning in, if you are listening in, and you want to get on with us and give us a little update as to where you're at, what you're seeing, and what you are kind of projecting for your flow report in your area, we'd love to have you on and share that with the audience. What do you say we go west over to the great state of Missouri and check in with Tom and Melissa Sosman?
Good evening.
Hey guys, how's it going?
You know what? We couldn't have it any better. I just don't have a complaint.
It's so miserable there that
We
they
don't have
can't even
any-
connect to the internet.
Look at them
Oh,
outside. Tom
Are
made
we
a
back
nice
now?
dinner on the grill for Melissa. Everything was nice. He's out there. He's just thinking, let's just cap this night off with a nice romantic movie of the stream team, and he's just got roped into the whole thing there. That's true love right there.
Oh my gosh.
Can you guys hear us now?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay.
So there's an internet outage like with a 20-mile radius where we are right now. So we're actually like hot spotting my iPad for my phone. So
Oh
that's
my
why the
gosh.
internet's great right now.
It had nothing to do with me. I wasn't digging today. I didn't cut any lines. Just FYI before I get played. Okay.
Oh, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Wow.
The
That's great.
internet's- It's been out since like noon, and it's not supposed to come back on until like 10 o'clock tonight. So we'll see. how
Wow.
long that's for.
Yeah.
Well, I got to briefly talk with Tom on the phone the other day, and we're looking forward to maybe some shenanigans, maybe stream team convergence here at Nature's Image Farm, maybe next month in July. We're going to try to put something together for all of our stream team audience just to come hang out with us all up here in Ohio if you guys can make it. Tom, Melissa, tell us where you're at, which side of the river you're on first, and then what does that look like as far as spring flow? Was it a boom? Was it a bust? And are you in summer flow, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So our flow this year has been much like a roller coaster. It has been up. It's been down. All the plants look really good because of all the rain that we've had. But the problem is the flight days have been low or lower than normal. And we all know what that translates to is a lower than average honey crop. Most of our early spring crop has already been here and gone. And now we're kind of on to all the clovers. We have sumac that is just on the verge of getting ready to open up. I don't know that they work it much, and I've heard a little bit of conflicting information on it, but the catalpa trees are blooming. I'm not sure if you can still, the catalpa trees are still blooming, and also the, what's the berry one with the small blooms?
Elderberry.
The elderberry. The elderberry is blooming currently. So we've had a lot of rain. This entire last week was a bust because we only probably got 3 days of dry weather. We have now been in dry weather since Monday morning early, and this whole week has been dry. We've reached some temperatures now that I believe the clover is starting to release some nectar, because we actually hit 90 today as a high, but we had been around that low 80-degree mark. Now this is our first 90-degree day that we've seen all this entire season or this entire year. So fingers crossed that now that we've got some good flight days this week until Friday afternoon when more rain's going to move back in.
And then I think there's rain chances all week next week.
They're low. So potentially this day and a half. And then this next week, we should have some good flight. That clover crop. Interestingly enough, I was out in the bee yard today, and I pay close attention. I'm buffering right now.
We got audio. You're good.
Okay. When I was in the bee yard, I paid close attention to the
All right, Tom, if you can listen, I guess you are buffering now, but we'll try to check back in with Tom and Melissa and see if they can tighten up their connection there. Tom, can you hear us?
Hey, thank you.
Okay, we'll check back in with Tom and Melissa. Sounds like, Brian, that they're in a real similar weather situation as East Central Ohio as far as what is in bloom. However, their temperatures are a solid 5 degrees warmer. Their forecast looks a little bit better. We've got tomorrow's going to be sunny, and then we potentially have 5 days of rain, half chance for that. So we'll see how that hits. Maybe those will hit in the evenings and open up the days there. But well, let's keep going west out to the great state of Utah and check in with Mr. Glade Sessions, Utah Bee Man. Glad you can jump on here tonight. How's it going?
Good.
What's up, Glade?
Hey, Bruce. Hey, Brian.
Glade's been hydrating. Glade, you might want to do an infusion as well to get some electrolytes in your system, because Glade's going to be down here next weekend and helping in this hot Alabama humidity. He's going to be coming down. I appreciate that, Glade. So anyway,
we're going to get a dose of heat here this weekend. We're supposed to hit 99 Saturday.
There's no way.
99 degrees.
Yes.
Man. Well, good. That'll be a little pre-workout warm up for Alabama. I was looking forward to coming down and seeing you, Glade and Bracken and Bruce and the whole crew down there. But some things kind of went sideways here as far as scheduling goes. But I'm sure somebody will post a video or a photo or something and see all you knuckleheads all in one place.
So.
Yeah. So, Glade, tell us about Utah. What was your spring flow a boom or a bust? And are you currently into your summer flow yet?
Little context. I'm east of Salt Lake City by about 150 miles. We're 60 miles south of Wyoming and 60 miles west of Colorado. So we're up in that northeast corner of Utah, and our flows are different than what's considered in that up and down the Wasatch Front mountain range, Salt Lake, Provo, Ogden areas. Our flows are different out here. We're drier, and we've been really dry this year as far as any kind of rain. So the spring flow was pretty much a bust. The bees brought in just enough to kind of keep going, but they didn't make any honey in the spring flow at all. We're starting into summer. As much as we're going to get summer flow out here, we're dry, right? First crop of alfalfa is coming off now. Most of the farmers have cut it already. Clover's blooming. Russian olive is one of the trees out here. It's blooming, but just about done. And from here on out, it's just going to be wildflower, clover, and hopefully some farmer doesn't cut his alfalfa for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And that's going to be pretty typical. But I feel like I'm behind. I've kind of looked at some of my past notes, and right now most of my hives have one honey super on, and they're just starting to bring it in. In the past, I've usually already had 2 supers on and getting ready to add a third. And this year I've got 1 getting ready to add a second. So it's slow this year, but we've been really dry.
So dry. The spring was a bust. Feel like you're a little slow on your summer flow. Interesting. Overall, where do you think? Are your bees looking as healthy as you would like them to right now? Are they doing okay at the moment?
The bigger hives look really good. If it was maybe on the weaker side and you were hoping to get it built up, man, they've just stagnated. They've just kind of sat there. You can tell they're just kind of waiting, and like you say, sometimes they just need a kick in the pants and give them a gallon of syrup to really kind of get them going.
You're right.
Most of my hives have enough honey on them that they're not hungry. But if it's a small hive right now, they're struggling. And so the small hives I'm having to feed.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I wasn't sure if, I was trying to avoid feeding as much as possible, just from a cost standpoint, but
Right.
also, it seems like I was kicking the can down the road, but when I saw that the bees were just exactly what you said, they were just static, like they weren't moving forward at all, and you could see that they had some comb to draw. The boxes weren't quite full enough. They were making brood, but slowing down. You could start to see them lose the momentum. The train was starting to slow down. And so that's what I did. We put feed on them, and it helped get everything back up to cruise control until that flow hit. And then when the flow hit, they were able to just get way further down the road because of that. But we saw a lot of colonies eat through a bunch of early storage very quickly. But that's the name of the game. What do? You don't want to overthink things and then make too big of an adjustment. But I think we've all learned we can't just necessarily just sit there and say, "Oh, it'll get better next week. It'll get better next week. It'll get better next week." I was telling the boys and some of the girls when we were out working the colonies, guys, man, look at how that paid off. And it was quite a chore. I most of the time I had me and 3 of the kids out there from yard to yard on the truck, just pumping syrup, and we were all, cracking lids, putting a pollen patty on, putting the liquid feed on, and that's a significant amount of labor. And for us to be able to go back and follow through afterwards now and look, you could see the fruit of that labor, and so that's kind of rewarding, and it makes you feel not proud and I've got this thing figured out, but you start to be able to trust that instinct a little bit when you see that the bees aren't quite where they're at, and you feel like, okay, here's the path forward, and you go ahead and just do it. Be able to see the outcome of that, and it be a positive outcome is definitely.
I should have done that. They were just right there on the cusp. They had food, they had pollen. They were bringing in plenty of pollen, and they had 5-6 frames of food. I thought, oh, they're okay, but they needed just a little bit of a push. And the hives that were a little bigger, they've taken off. They look great. The hives that were a little smaller, they're still just kind of lagging behind.
Where are you thinking? Where are you thinking your summer flow? Is it looking like it's going to do something, or is it too early to tell for you in Utah?
Little too early. If we could get some rain, that'd make a big difference. But
we'll send some your way.
Yeah,
right, Brian.
Some rain.
I don't think the fronts go west. I think they go east. So send us some of the dry, maybe a little bit.
A half an inch of rain out here makes a big difference.
Goes a long way. Yeah, that's great. Well, hey, thanks for jumping on tonight and giving us a little update. Hope you guys have a great time down there at Bruce's. I was really hoping to get down there, but maybe the next time we'll get to see you all in one place there. But Glade, thanks for jumping on with us tonight. If you're listening tonight, you want to check out another great YouTube channel, check out Glade Sessions, the Utah Bee Man. Glade, have a great night. God bless. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Glade.
It's always cool for me just to hear just these little, here we are in our own world doing our own thing, right? And that's what we're surrounded by. But yet there's always another story, another chapter, a different journey, everything going on just a half a state over or a different part of the country. So let's check in with another great beekeeper, the one and only Mr. Paul Hale. Mr. Paul Hale, how's it going, sir?
What's up, Paul?
It's doing great. How y'all doing?
Doing great. Thanks for jumping on with us tonight. And thanks always for all your encouragement in the comments. I really appreciate that. It really means a lot, Paul.
Yes, sir. So down here in Louisiana, I want to tell you that the tallow flow has been doing great, and we're coming probably to the end in the next week or two, maybe 10 days. The tallow is kind of going like this, and so it's about to the end of its. The spring was a little muted with blackberry and privet as far as we're concerned. So we had a little bit of spring, but the tallow has kind of pumped up here lately at the end. So Lee from Kodiak Farms is probably about less than 10 miles from the way the crow flies from my house. And he is probably experiencing the same thing that I am right now. So I've got 4 deep supers on one hive right now, filling up. So hopefully we're getting there. So
Wow.
it's looking pretty
Hold
good.
on, you just cruised right away. Wait, you just cruised right over that.
I'm telling you, tallow is
just back
unreal,
it up, guys.
I don't know if you guys can. Tallow
Wait a minute.
is unbelievable.
Paul just cruised over that like it was just so normal, and he said 4 deep supers, guys. 4 deep supers in preparation for tallow. That's incredible, Paul.
So that's about every 3 or 4 year thing.
Wow.
So about every 3 or 4 years, we get a great tallow flow. 2 years ago, because we had July, August was very drought. And so we had very little. And last year was kind of light too for us. I don't know what you experienced, Bruce, over there in Alabama. It was a little more light.
We had a good crop last year, but I thought this year was not going to be very good. You know, it was so late. But boy, when the man upstairs flipped that switch, it was immediate. Just, oh my gosh! Like I compare it from water hose to fire hose. I mean, the spring flow is like a water hose, and we got a decent spring flow. Then it just turned off. Like somebody turned that faucet off. Then all of a sudden, I was all worried about it. Man, are we going to get any more honey? Because it was about a week late here, I think, than what it usually is. Yeah. And boy, when they got flipped, it's like a fire hose, man. They pour it in. And I've never had I guess 2 years ago we had a bad crop, but tallow's always brought something in for me pretty much. I guess that was the year it froze some of you guys over there. I know Mike didn't get a tallow crop a couple of years ago, I believe, but down here it didn't freeze, but it just wasn't great. But maybe that was last year they had that freeze. I don't know. We had a good crop last year. I had a record crop, but this year I think I've got every single box of comb I have is on a hive. I could have probably gotten a fair amount more if I had more boxes to stack on. I did put some foundation on a little bit later, but it's old, kind of older. Foundation probably needs to be waxed a little more, and I got on there too late anyway, and they didn't. We'll see. I don't think they're drawn out that great, but it's just been like I went out this past weekend. I was mentioned earlier in the video, and I was cracking lids, and I've got a lot of my hives have patty rims on them. I like to put Hive Alive in the wintertime. So I don't mind if they build that wax up in there, because that's beautiful wax. When they build it up in that little area above the frames, scrape it off, and it's just beautiful white wax full of honey. And some of them, you'll see in the video that's dropping next there too. The first one I looked into, it's like they had packed out, I mean, as deep as they could, every bit of space they had in that top of that hive where that patty rim is, just full of beautiful white comb and honey. And it's just, they just can't bring it in fast enough. We're kind of like you, Paul. I think we might actually be a little ahead of you. I think we're probably about done now. We may have a couple more days, but I think we're pretty much there. So now it's just a matter of getting the honey off and then managing the pest the rest of the year. So the fun time is about over for us.
I'm sorry. So for the past 2 years, we probably had 18-degree weather here in Louisiana. So I've lost my 3 orange trees and grapefruit trees that are in the backyard because the citrus trees have died because of the chill. And that has affected us a little bit as far as tallow and other pollen producing and nectar producing plants or whatever down here. So last 2 years have been probably 40 pounds per hive ratio. So hopefully this year we're looking at taking a step up to, I'm hoping for 60, maybe 70 pounds per hive or whatever coming through this year. So we're looking for a little bit of stepwise change here.
Now look, Paul, I know I'm an Ohio hillbilly, and I'm not taking my boots off to count that high, but I think 4 deep supers is a hair greater than 40 or 60 pound average.
Well, that's on one hive right now.
Okay. All right. Well, hey.
I can't say that's an average across all of them, but right now I've got one that's really booming. And
wouldn't that be something?
I'm letting her go.
How would you like to be in the position where you say, oh my gosh, I'm out of equipment. I need 3 or 4 deep supers for every colony. Like, can you imagine writing that check, and thinking, oh, here comes the flow.
In my carport, there is a bunch of empty boxes. There's a bunch of premier double wax frames sitting in double wax boxes that are sitting in my garage right now that are not being utilized. So I'm looking to take that next step. Yeah, that's, did you hear my wife? He needs.
No, what'd she say?
He needs a hive lifter.
He needs a hive lifter. Okay.
I'm getting too old to lift those boxes over there, and it's too hard.
Yeah, especially those deeps, man. That's
I'm all about mediums.
So I'm looking for the at Nobby this year. Hopefully we'll get Boris or somebody down there that can sell some hive lifters or something. I might be coming home with something different in my truck this year.
all right. Well, make sure you don't forget it, right? Because it seems like it's going to take forever to get you what we had for you that you couldn't fit in the truck. So I have not forgot about that. We're going to get you taken care of on that. Paul, was the spring flow a boom or a bust for you in Louisiana?
It was a little light. So blackberry and stuff that comes in the spring, and privet that comes early in the spring, some things that come in the spring was a little light. They were bringing it in and keeping them alive, but it was a little light. But tallow has come through pretty well. So
summer might be a boom for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Bruce, what were you going to say there?
Paul, do you use any mediums or use all deeps?
All deeps.
Man, you're a man, is what you are.
No, I'm not.
Listen, I can do a few of them. I've got a few on my hives. Actually, I had some dead outs just throughout the spring, and so I just, in the past, a few weeks, if I've encountered a dead out, I just throw them on top of a hive, a strong one, and they've filled all those deeps up that I threw up there, but it hasn't been a lot. And so, man, if I have more than 8 or 10 deeps to harvest out of 200 boxes, I'm like, that's too many. I just don't like, I don't like doing deeps. They're just so heavy. And I also it's hard for me in the extractors to get them to fit in there really good. It's just so tight. It's just kind of they're just more of a hassle to me, but some people, that's all they use. I think you're a beast, man. You're awesome.
Well, what I did is I listened to some people on YouTube at the start that said, hey, standardize on equipment. And I did. I standardized on deep, and I bought one of John Hill's extractors that runs 8 deeps around there. So it's worked out pretty well for me. But I am 63 years old, going to be 64 this year. And so as I get a little older, it's going to be a little harder to pull those 60, 70, 80-pound boxes off the 6 feet. I'm on a ladder now because I under super.
Yeah.
And when you lift those heavy boxes off the top, under super, that gets to be a little heavy. Yes, it does.
We're having this conversation right now because, we are considering transitioning everything to deeps as well, just to make it way more easier for splits, way easier for out yards, way easier to stage equipment, way easier for everything other than actually moving them off, moving them around. No matter what you do, we at our point in this game, we still have to, pack the supers off and then put them onto a honey skid or put them onto the flat, but we still have to physically move them from one place to the other. But it seems as though right now that we've got more hitches in the giddy up with, there's a medium here, we really wanted a deep, or she ends up going and brooding up on those frames anyways, or the constant back and forth. So I'm thinking about going the other way. And of course the line of the Maxon equipment that we have here is set up and ready to go for deeps beautifully. So I'm thinking as we continue going, I'm thinking possibly about phasing the mediums out and going just all deeps too. But
you are a younger man than me, Greg. So
I'm dumber. I'm definitely dumber.
Not dumber. You still got time to learn. Let me say that.
Well, I
would say get a lifter or
lifter.
Lifter.
Hey, Paul, about how many colonies do you run?
Right now, I lost some this year, so I'm probably about 4 or 5 that are going to be really production colonies. I probably got 8 or 9, maybe 10. I'm trying to grow some in my horizontal hive that I got from Ricky. That I'm using that to breed new colonies. I'm looking to open up a second yard, an out yard this year, and doing a little cream grafting. So I'm trying to take that next step or whatever my bee journey here. And that's my plans for this year.
Awesome. Great deal, man.
Paul, thanks for joining us from the great state of Louisiana with that update. 4 deep supers, guys. Tallow's coming. Paul, thanks for the update. And again, Thanks so much for all your encouragement in the comments and on the YouTube channel. Really appreciate you.
Y'all have a great season.
Thank you, sir.
Too. How much fun is this?
Yeah, and so like, all right, let's think of one place. All right, he's down in the basement. Let's think of one place that everybody wants to be nearly all the time, where you ask, is there a spring flow? Is there a summer flow? The answer is probably there's always a flow.
Yes.
And so let's bring somebody on here who can just like rub it in our face constantly. But let's check in from the great state of Hawaii, Mr. Zach. Zach, how's things going in your neck of the woods?
Good. Just catching queens today and just sat in the truck because it's raining.
Oh man. So where does Hawaii fall like right now? Is there a spring, summer, fall honey flow season? Lay that out for us, and where are you at right now?
Summer. It's from like March till October. It's like it says the hose is turned on. And in the winter months, it's like 6 5/8 a month. So it slows down, but otherwise it's pretty constant.
So you're brooding nearly all year?
Yeah, you can get drones all year, so they're making.
Oh my gosh!
So you're catching queens from January till October?
Yeah, if I wanted to, I could. Yeah.
Gosh.
Wow.
You gotta spend the with the family, so.
Yeah, that's that. And congratulations! I think you were recently married in the last year or so, or 6 months, or something like that.
February 23rd.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. Okay, so right now, what does June look like? Like right now, specifically, where now obviously it sounds like what you'd primarily do is queens. Maybe shoot off some nukes. Queens is obviously honey's a byproduct for you. But where do you fall right now in early June? Where does that fall in your grand scheme in Hawaii? Are you already past peak flow? Are you inching towards a peak flow? Where are you at with the honey flow?
So we have 3 really big ones: Macnut, and then Ohia lehua, which is like it's a native species, and then Christmas berry, or what they call here is Brazilian pepper, and we're just finishing up Ohia, and the Christmas berry will start, and all 3 of the main flows are good for probably like 100+ pound average per hive.
Jeez.
So 300 pound average.
Yeah, like I'll probably hit 300+ pounds this year. Normally I sit like 250 plus, but like for example, we pulled honey the last like 3 weeks, and then and they produced like drums, and a deep and a western went back on, and I just took those boxes back out of 2 weeks later, and they were all completely full again. So
every 2 weeks you're cycling honey through them.
Yeah. So 2 weeks of queens, and then 2 or 3 weeks of honey, just in a cycle from like January till Thanksgiving.
That sounds like heaven, doesn't it, Bruce?
You gotta be kidding me.
I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, all that gloriousness obviously comes with a lot of risk with mites and everything else, but to have something being able to produce and have that many cycles of year. So you're literally nearly have, if you wanted to, unlimited brood cycles clear through the entire year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. Your mite game must be on point.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. They grow just as fast as the bees do.
Wow. All right. So 3 main flows, 300 pound averages. I would ask you if your spring flow was a boom or a bust, but I don't even, do you even have it's just, you have 3 main flows that just carries you through constant.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's 3 main flows, but then there's always like, there's
minors.
There's going to be honey, right? Like if it quits flowering down by the ocean, you can grow up in the mountains. It's like an hour drive or 2-hour drive.
I think the next stream team convergence ought to be in Hawaii. I mean, what do you think, guys? Yeah. We could probably convince the wives to go out to Hawaii, right? And maybe we'll get to hang out with Zach. And I mean, Say again.
All you gotta do is buy a queen, and you can write off the whole trip.
See, there you go. That's simple. Bruce or Brian, you have any questions for Zach? I mean, he's like, it's the promised land there in Hawaii.
Which island are you on?
The Big Island.
Oh, the Big Island?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I just give a shout out to Zach. I've used his queens now for a couple of years, and they do really well here. And they breed up, they produce honey, and I've been pleased with them. And so I appreciate you sending me some, Zach, and let me get on your rotation of queen buying.
No problem.
There's a lot of places to get queens, but I tell you, Zach does a phenomenal job packing and shipping. I think it's been maybe it's been a couple years. And we were really late getting Jake and getting going some repetitions through insemination, and it was way too late here. We had no drones, too late to really make virgins. And Zach was kind enough to ship us some virgin queens to work with, to play with, and just they were packed beautifully, phenomenally. So Zach, really appreciate all that too.
Yeah, I don't know, Zach, where you got the idea. I've never seen them packed exactly like that, but if you watch, some of my videos from earlier in the spring, I kind of show how he does that. And I mean, I know that you want to get the queens in the hives as soon as possible, but the way Zach packs his queens, they could be in that box longer than just a couple of days. I mean, they have plenty of food supply, they have plenty of water, plenty of attendants, and they're totally, you open the box up, they're totally calm. They just they don't even really want to fly out. It doesn't seem like they're happy in there. Pretty much a few of them do, but they're not. Some bees, when you order them and you open the box, they just all come flying out. But as Zach's the way he packs them, they're pretty well fed and cared for, and the queens seem happy, and overall they do quite well. And so appreciate you, Zach, and all you're doing, and I think you're doing a good thing out there.
The queen packing, that was like years of trial and error, and I can't tell you how many hundreds of queens got cooked or lost in UPS.
Yeah,
sad 100 doesn't get to their destination.
Yeah. Well, you've got a system too where you just about won't send them unless it's to a place that's going to be inside, like a UPS store and things like that. And we happen to have one like 2 miles away, so it's real convenient for me. But you got that shipping thing down pat. Of course, I guess when you're sending them all the way from Hawaii to the stateside, you got to have a system that works, well, and it does work well. But I've ordered queens from a lot of people, and I've had good success with different queen breeders. But I do say, Zach, you do a great job, and I appreciate you.
Yeah,
you can get him early. You can get him so early because he's just living in heaven on earth out there. But
you get them early, you can get them late.
Crazy.
And you can get them early and late. So it kind of, if you want to do some late, like some fall splits, you can get them. Assuming Zach's still producing them, that sometimes I'll message Zach and he'll be like, well, we're going to cut it, back off a little bit for now or whatever. But if they're available and if he's got them, and Zach has a tremendous demand as well, so they're not always available. But when he does, and you got to get a minimum order, but I think it's worth it. For those on the stream here, if you reach out to him, if you got a group of people together, if you got 3 or 4 people that want to order a minimum order, and they just order them and you can share them, and I think you'll be pleased. I have been. They do really well here in Alabama. They just are. Now you do have to treat for mites with them, but they build up their brood factories. I guess they're Italian Cordovans basically, aren't they? They're kind of, you say Italian in the packaging, but I think they've got some Italian Cordovan.
And Cordovan Italian. They're kind of
Cordovan Italian. They're kind of Some of them are a little darker than others. Most of them are that beautiful gold Cordovan look, but some of them are kind of striped a little more like the Italians. But they are beautiful, and they brood up. If you want a lot of brood, they work well. And the thing about, I've had experience in the past with Cordovans that were heavy on the Cordovan side. They brood and brood, but they don't produce a lot of honey. But your queens have done both. They brood up, and then when it's time to make honey, they make honey, and so they don't just continue to brood and not make any honey. So they seem to be, at least in my experience the last couple of years, they've done a good job. I appreciate them.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out. Megan Mahoney is she helps me inseminate and everything. If anybody needs really good breeders, she has a dark and a light line. But when I started with her, my averages went up probably 100 pounds per hive.
Wow. Nice.
Wow.
For switching the genetics around.
Where is she at? Is she in Hawaii or is she over stateside?
She's in Texas and then Dakotas.
Okay.
Wow.
Zach, you got your work clothes on there. You're busy, so I figured. Thanks for taking a few minutes with this. I got one last question for you. Maybe it's just me, and I'm a no knucklehead. There's no way around it. But the time of years where it's like hot and heavy nuke season, hot and heavy queen harvesting season, this thing happens, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but when you're hot and heavy in the season, when you close your eyes, do you see queens running? Like when you close your eyes, do you see like this little like? Does that make sense? Do you see that?
Yeah.
You do. Okay.
Thinking about virgins hatching in the incubator, or
No, I mean like when you actually close your eyes, can you see like you do? Okay. What is that? What is that about?
I think because like you spend hours, like I'll catch queens for like 8 or 10 hours a day, 3 days a week, and like you're just looking at the same pattern every day.
Your brain's trained. You're looking for the silhouette, the shape, the movement, and then when you're so okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna tell my wife I'm not going quite crazy yet. I tell her, honey, I close my eyes, and I say, when I close my eyes, honey, what do you think it is that I really see? And she wants to say me, and I said, I see queens running around. She's like, what? What are you talking about? So, anyways, all right. Well, Zach, all right, I'm not nuts, not yet. So,
my life, that is the way to go.
All right, hey Zach, hailing from the great state of Hawaii, where it is never not queen and never not honey season. Hey, thanks a lot,
Crazy.
Zach. We appreciate you.
It's fine.
Zach, you take care.
That dude's living his best life. I mean, come on, Hawaii, macadamia nuts, honey, roasted pork, pineapple. I mean, all the touristy things, of course, food related things come to mind immediately. But can you imagine just nonstop? I mean, like we are jealous of Bruce because it seems like, wow, when you get down in Bruce neck of the woods, it's nonstop bees. But imagine tropical Alabama.
I've been
surrounded by
to the
ocean.
Big Island, and
just the name of those nectar flows out there are just cool. I mean, everything about
I know,
Hawaii is
man.
just cool.
Come on. Yeah, I've not been to Hawaii. Matter of fact, it's just us three. It's just three talking. So, and I know Susie doesn't. She hasn't heard this, but when we got hitched, I mean, we were just flat dead broke to the point to where, I mean, we paid for our own wedding, everything. I think we did the whole wedding for like $1,000, $1,500, something like that, and that was extravagant then. And so there was no budget for a honeymoon. We never went on a honeymoon. Matter of fact, we still haven't gone on a honeymoon. It's let's see, what year? This is 2025. So we got married in 2000. Yeah, so we've been married 25 years. Still have not been on a honeymoon. And I can remember my grandma and grandpa taking a few trips to Hawaii and how amazing that it was for them. So maybe at some point, maybe Susan and I can sneak away for a belated honeymoon to Hawaii, or I don't know, somewhere. So I think of Hawaii, I think of my grandparents, and I think about macadamia nuts and roasted pork and pineapple.
I've been to Hawaii 3 times, courtesy of BYU football. So that was pretty cool.
Okay, all right.
Two times were just to play the Warriors, the University of Hawaii. The third time was a bowl game. So my wife got to go with us. That we played that game on Christmas Day of 1992.
Wow.
But yeah, so I've been there, and we had a little bit of time to play around, but we had a different mission over there. So
Bruce is just living the life.
But I would love to go.
the
I would love
world.
to go get some of the different islands and just take a true Hawaiian vacation and be able to go. I'd love to just go hang out with Zach for a few days and see how his operation operates. I think he would be a good host. It'd be kind of fun to see how he's doing things over there. But maybe one of these days, whenever I retire from my job, my full-time job, and I can spend a little more time, maybe we'll get over there and do some of those kind of things.
Yeah,
hard to
awesome.
do right now.
Yeah, I know. It's been hard. It's been the last 25 years. It's been hard to be able to sneak away for more than a day or two at best. But tonight we're checking with folks all across the USA to find out what's the honey flow. Where are you at? Was the spring a boom or a bust? What is the summer flow looking like? Where have we gone? All over Ohio, Louisiana, Alabama, Missouri. We've gone all the way over to Hawaii. We'll get a couple more in tonight. Brian has the link pinned here in the comments. So if you want to get on and join us and tell us about your situation where you are, we'll get maybe just a couple on tonight. We're going to check in now with Justin Strom. Justin, welcome to the Stream Team Chat. Tell us about where you're located, if your spring flow was a boom or a bust, and where are you sitting right now?
Can you hear me?
Sound great.
I'm in Marin County, California, which is like 45 miles north of San Francisco. And I'm a second-year beekeeper. Started out with 4 nukes last year, grew to 12 hives. You know, I treat my mites. I went into winter with 12 hives, came out of winter with 12 hives, made splits, and this year it's been going really good spring flow, early spring flow. My climate kind of aligns with Bruce's when I hear you guys talking. You know, I made my splits in the end of February, March. During March, the flowers just went crazy. We had a lot of rain. We had April showers and May flowers. This has been a great year. The only issue I had was all of my hives grew rapidly. Even my splits really grew to 4 or 5 boxes, and then everything wanted to swarm. And I have bait hives. I caught a lot of my swarms. I lost a couple swarms. But, you know, some hives swarm twice. So I'm up to 35 hives right now.
Wow. Getting busy.
And, I did a honey harvest. I got a Hilco extractor, which works really great. You know, I have a lot of honey still on there, a lot of nectar to be capped over. But it seems like the white wax is kind of diminishing now, and it's kind of trickling off at this point. My next Saturday, I'm gonna go in and do a mite wash on every hive, and have Formic Pro ready to put on. You know, that the biggest problem we have here is the mites. They're a nightmare.
So Justin, sounds like your spring flow was pretty good. You're still in a spring flow. What do you consider going from spring to summer? Is that when your bushes and your brambles and your mid-story varietals switch over to the ground cover flowers? Is that when you officially consider that a summer flow in your neck of the woods?
In the summer, all the wildflowers are dried up. It's more like blackberries are going right now. There's a lot of blackberries in 2 of my yards. And, you know, out in the country, when the blackberries are over, it's like you're done for the year. But inside the city where I have a lot of hives, you can have a good summer flow and even a little fall flow. So
your big flow is spring then.
Yeah. I had 15 hives on the rancher that I have my hives out at. He has 20 acres of fiddleneck and vetch that he grows for his cows. And man, that honey's just a really light yellow honey that's really good. So I brought in a lot of honey just from that, but unfortunately he did cut it early this year, so I kind of got screwed at the end.
Yeah.
Hey Justin, there are a lot of commercial beekeepers around that area.
You know, I would say no, but I was at the golf course having lunch like a month ago, and a rancher that was close to my hives was there, and he told me that he lets a guy keep 500 hives there during the winter from May to through winter. And I Google mapped his location to mine, and it was 2.8 miles away. So, and there's a lake in between us, so I thought I was probably pretty safe.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of beekeeping action going on in California. I just wasn't sure in your exact, neck of the woods if it if it caters to commercial guys or if they kind of move them out after almonds or what they do. So that makes sense. I know a lot of people drop hives, in California or south, obviously, of a lot of northern beekeepers will keep hives, kind of overwinter them in that area and get ready for the almonds. I think a lot do that, or quite a few do. And so I just wondered, that's pretty cool stuff, man. That'd be kind of cool to try some of that honey and see what it tastes like. I love honey out from out west. I know, I'm not sure if they have those particular flowers in Utah. They may have some of that. I know Utah is pretty dry, arid, but I do love the Idaho, Utah. I love the alfalfa honey. Alfalfa clover honey, that combination is my favorite. I love those two combined together. That's my favorite honey in the world, and it makes really good creamed honey as well. My favorite honey in the world is it's creamed honey. I think Brian from Flower Street, I know, what's the guy, Nebraska, I can't remember his name, but they make some really good honey out there from the alfalfa, and I've had several different people that have I've tried it from. So you guys have a lot of alfalfa around there as well, or is it more just the other flowers that you mentioned?
Across town, there's more commercial guys that drop off and some farming over there. I'm kind of in a little valley all to myself.
That's awesome.
It's all just like oak trees and grassy hills, there is a lot of trees. But inside the city, man, there's everything.
That's awesome. Sounds like a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
California's got some beautiful country out there.
I truly feel it's a great place to have bees or to grow fruit trees.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 orange trees in my backyard.
Wow.
I've been catching swarms in my backyard with bait hives. I watched one of my favorite YouTubers is Duck River Honey, and I really got into all his videos and his bait hives and stuff. I learned a lot from that guy, that's for sure. You guys and David Burns also.
Awesome. Well, Justin, hey, thanks for jumping on tonight and sharing about the spring flow in California. It's a lot of fun to be able to see and learn from folks and say, what are things looking like? What can you kind of expect? So, Justin, thanks for joining us tonight.
All right, man. Thanks. Let's hope everything doesn't come crashing down on me.
I think you'll be all right. Hang in there.
Justin, you take care, buddy.
It's nice to see you.
Well, as things are kind of moving around, it's so different to think, how would, when you move, think about moving your colonies or becoming a migratory beekeeper. Like, you got to learn like the paces and the timing and the seasonality of all those things. But just in Northern California, it's like, oh, there's a spring flow and that's it. Or you just jump on a boat and go to Hawaii and it's nonstop. Or you come clear to here to Ohio and it's like, I don't know, roll the dice. Let's see what happens. Maybe there's a spring flow. Maybe there's not. Maybe there's a summer flow. Maybe there's not. Maybe, it's amazing to see how different geographically honey flows are. And then like right now in this moment where we are all at with it, let's jump down to Kentucky and let's have a quick check-in with the one and only Curtis, the junior beekeeper. Hi, Curtis.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you, Curtis?
I'm pretty good. So I wanted to mention I can never remember the flower. Okay. But it's been raining here so much. We've probably had a couple 100 gallons of rain the past couple months. And it drowns out all of these flowers. So I just want to mention that I can never remember what flower it is. I think it's clover. I think. But it drowns out the flowers so bad because the rain.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I
when
just
that
had a
clover
question for you
petal
guys.
is up like this.
Yeah.
And the rain
exactly.
comes down, it just. But some of the downward facing flowers, if it rains, it's not quite as big of a deal. But Curtis, in Northern Kentucky, was your spring flow a boom or a bust?
Not really. I'd say it's a kind of a bust.
Where are you at right now? Your clovers are blooming?
I don't really know what's blooming right now.
Do you feel like you
Where is
got?
it?
Is there honey? Is there honey? Are you seeing nectar coming in right now?
Yeah, we actually pulled a box, a couple frames 2 days ago, Monday. We pulled a couple frames.
Is it the light honey or dark honey right now?
It's light. Yeah, it's light right now.
Nice. So you got some of that early spring stuff coming in.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
How are your bees looking? What are things looking like for the rest of the year, do you think?
They're pretty strong. We have 13 coming out. They all pretty much survived. Plus, we got 3 swarms. One from this behind me. No, actually 2 from this. It's swarmed 2 times this year already.
Hey, if you
It's
open them
just
up and
kinda-
let them inside the building, they'll stop swarming outside. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
I never really thought about that.
Don't do that. Your dad he'll hate me. Don't do that.
Yeah. I'm actually in the collection room too, so I have.
Okay, nice. Neat.
He does
room there.
like collection, and then the observation hive has 8 frames.
Wow, that's nice. That's cool.
Wow. Super side by side.
All right,
call it
Curtis,
his pride and joy.
give us your big prediction. Is Northern Kentucky going to have a boom or a bust summer honey flow season?
Probably a bust because Dearth is.
Oh, come on, Curtis.
I'm just saying because I think Dearth is next month. So I don't know.
Curtis, are you a glass half empty or a glass half full type?
I don't know. I never thought about that.
Well, let's. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Imagine, if you will, a glass of water.
Mm-hmm.
That half of the glass has air and half of the glass has water. Is that glass half full or is it half empty?
Oh my gosh.
There is no wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer.
There's not. No, there's not. I would say probably a half full.
Hey, my guy. Okay, that's good. All right, last
Because
question.
half empty would be like the upside down.
Okay. All right. All right. Last question, Curtis.
Yep.
What weighs more? A pound of feathers or a pound of rocks?
They're both the same because they're both.
Okay. See? Let's give it up for Curtis, guys. All right. Good job.
All right.
Curtis,
I'll see y'all later.
You nailed it. You did a great job.
Hey, Greg, I want to come up to see y'all sometime. We're only 3 hours apart, so.
Okay. All right.
I'm probably gonna come up there sometime.
All right. Well, Curtis, hey, thanks for giving us a Northern Kentucky update. Hope you have a great season and hope your season is a glass half full, that you'll have a beautiful summer flow. Thanks for checking in, Curtis. We'll see you. It's always fun hearing from all kind of different folks. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, a couple things here. Let's give a couple tips and tricks for as we're finishing out or we're getting heavier into where we're at with our flows. What are some things that we're doing? Let's talk about that in just a minute. Well, we're pumped up this year to be collaborating, working with so many great manufacturers who are truly dedicated to make products here in America. And so Premier Bee Products is one of those, and Maxent is another one where it's truly made in the USA. 304 stainless steel that actually comes from the United States, made by Americans for Americans, made in the USA. It's a big deal, and we're proud to represent and distribute for Maxent, Premier Bee, and several other folks who are dedicated to make Made in America great again. There's some comments here. I'm going to thank Mr. Castle Hives, for your super chat. Hashtag better late than never. Hashtag stream team. Hashtag honey 2025. It's absolutely amazing how fast things can turn around. And this season is probably just a fantastic reminder of that. Bruce, I want to thank you for your super chat. Hashtag local honey. Honey across the USA. Stream team. Hashtag be the lighthouse. Really appreciate your support, Bruce. Mr. Mark Zenner, hey, thanks a lot for your super chat. And to let you guys know, these super chats mean a lot to all of us. Every week when we're here and we're spending time with you guys, so many folks will send us a super chat, just a little financial way of saying thank you, and that means so much to us. As a lot of you guys know, whether it's the YouTube channel, whether it's the honey, whether it's the bees, whether it's a supply store, this is what we do to help earn a living. And so when you guys show your thanks by subscribing to the channel, commenting on videos, or leaving us a super chat financially, we just want you to know how much we really do appreciate that. I also want to give a special shout out to several folks who reached out this week. Last week, some folks saw that I was wore out, I was exhausted, had a lot on my mind. A lot of folks saw that. And just specifically want to thank Ed Alsip for sending me just a nice email just saying, hey, I noticed you looked a little down, just praying for you. God's got everything. Everything is going to be fine. And so I just appreciate that you guys would think enough of us to send us that word of encouragement. Those things do not go unnoticed. So we really do appreciate you. Shout out and thanks again to Mr. Justin Strom for joining us from sunny California. Thanks for having me, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm fired up, Justin. Hey, thanks for your support there.
Yeah, Greg, to piggyback on that, it's just so cool that people don't realize what kind of, Justin used the word fired up. That kind of helps each of us, I'm sure, when people do have nice comments or comments of support, or even comment on the videos, or come in here, super chat, super stickers, just being in the chat, all this stuff, it just helps me to stay fired up. There are times when I get so burnt out, I just get tired. I just don't want to do another video. I don't want to film anything. But then I'll get a really nice comment or something that really helps pick me up and helps me keep plugging along, because, it's just, I do love working the bees, and sometimes it would be easier, of course, just to be able to work the bees and not have to feel like I want to share it or film it. But I do enjoy doing that, or I just wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? But it just means so much, the comments. I think that's one thing that keeps me going with the YouTube channel, with wanting to share and just helping to grow the community and be a part of that community, because it's such an incredible community, and that just means so much. And the support that you give, I know Brian, Greg, you both feel this way, as well as others in the chat that have channels. It's just positive comments just go a long way. It is like the people, it's almost like you become family. It's like a beekeeping family. And, of course, involved sometimes there's a little drama, but there's family kind of like that.
Family. That's family.
There's also a lot of just really neat stuff that goes on. We're going to have a tremendous time here in next weekend with some of the folks who are going to be coming, and it's all, the people are going to be coming, over half of them are going to be there because of the YouTube thing, because they're a part of this community. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, thanks to Paul Hale for joining us tonight from Louisiana. Thanks for the super chat, Paul. Really do appreciate that. And Paul says, I'll support all you do, Greg. Keeping it real. Paul, I really, really do appreciate that. You're awesome. So thank you, sir. Guys, as we are kind of getting into, we are creeping up into this flow that seems to be kicking in, but what would you guys do if you saw the bee starting to pack nectar away in earnest, and then you've got a forecast coming up where it's 5 days of rain? Bruce, as you would be looking to your bees, and if you were to see that kind of change in the weather, what would you be thinking about, and what would you be doing for your bees in that time period?
So the bees are packing it in, but you see a forecast coming with a lot of rain. So,
Yeah.
Or I guess dearth could be the same kind of situation, maybe. I don't really know if I would do anything if they're packing it in, if they've got good stores. I don't know if I really do anything differently. I would probably just kind of let it alone. If they're packing in stores, that means they've got food supply for a while, so I wouldn't need to worry about feeding them or anything for a while. This time of the year now, a different time of the year, it might be a little different, but I don't think I'd change a lot. I would probably just kind of keep plowing ahead or keep moving forward, full steam ahead, and see what happens in the next few weeks. It would be a little interesting if this was happening and then we were about to harvest honey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If the honey harvest is scheduled in 3 days, but the next month is supposed to be raining constantly or a dearth, do you pull all your honey? What do? Do you pull as much as you thought you would? In my situation, I probably would, and then I would have in my back pocket feeding them if I needed to. I'd be willing to feed them if I needed to. But everybody does that a little different. Brian actually is up there. He's going to leave a box of honey on every hive to make sure they have the food stores to get through these type of hard times, whether it be rain, dearth, or cold weather. So everybody does that a little bit differently. But I'm not. That's kind of what I would do. I probably just wouldn't worry too much about it this time of the year. Actually, I would probably just kind of go ahead with whatever I had planned.
Just keep cruising with it. I think that's what we're kind of thinking about. Mr. Chris Morrow, Drop Tine Farms, with the Fairfield County Beekeepers Association. Good to see you in here, Chris. He says, I had bees opening up fresh capped honey and eating it tonight. I mean, come on, you knuckleheads. We're in Ohio, so he's getting probably similar weather. He's south of 70. I'm north around 70. So sometimes the weather kind of actually splits on that 70. So that's what I would worry about too, is you get all this capped honey, but you got 5 days in a row of rain. What are the bees going to be doing? They're not out foraging, so they're going to start eating in to the stores. My mind goes to, okay, well, how do I keep moving those things forward? Obviously, we're not putting feed on, like we're not feeding them in that time frame. They're going to be eating what they're storing. But my mind goes to knowing, okay, they're probably going to be getting into their stores. How bad are they going to do that? But are these knuckleheads going to be looking for something to do during 5 days of rain? Like there's no coloring books or crayons or video games for them to play, but could we add another box on with some fresh foundations and have them start to draw that out in those 5 days? Yeah, they might use up some of that resource in the box to do it. But if I could get them drawing comb for 3 or 4 days while they're in the box, to me, that's better than them just eating the honey and getting no work out of it.
Yeah, I think that actually happened. Like he mentioned, I think with my spring flow, I thought it was gonna be like a record spring harvest. I mean, they were packing it in pretty good, and then when I actually pulled it, it was pretty good, but it wasn't what I thought. And I think the bees had actually, during that little dry spell, I think they had actually started to consume some of that honey, or at least uncap and consume a little bit of it. So it's just, you just never know what's going to happen. But yeah, do you think they would comb out if they had honey on the hive and there was a week of rain? Do you think they would pull from that honey and draw it out? I think
so, because if you think about what it takes to draw comb, is we need the wax glands to be really active in secreting. Well, what gets the wax glands active in secreting? It's that incoming. It's that the carbohydrates coming from the nectar, and we can facilitate that through feeding. But they do it in earnest when there's that natural flow coming in. So if they do have open and wet nectar in there, they're already consuming all of that to begin with. So they're already like primed and ready to go. Right now, we have bees that are storing and plugging away nectar in as fast as they can draw cells. So we've got foundation that we'll throw on there, and they'll draw out just a patch, and they're storing it away just wherever they can, and then they'll keep continuing to build and draw it out, but it's coming in faster than they can draw it. So maybe, we could use that little, but then again, imagine X amount of hundreds of colonies that are all doing that. Let's just say it's 10 colonies to make the math easy. Imagine 10 colonies who are already kind of balanced out where they need to be as far as bee numbers and frames, work ahead of them, and then storing nectar. Now imagine it's going to rain. We want to add a box to everything and frames. That gets quite expensive, but this is the greatest time of the year to get comb drawn for now, for the fall, for next spring. Right. So if they are going to go back and forth, is it going to be a good crop or not? at least if we can get some work done, get some comb drawn, then we've got something to work with. And the beautiful thing about that is if the weather guessers are wrong, I mean, I know that sounds outlandish to say that the Weather Channel app might be wrong. I mean, it's not like they've never been wrong before. So why would you ever think that, you know? But, you know, you can't plan out your work based on the Weather Channel app. You've got to just, you kind of, but, anyways,
Greg,
that's
can I ask you a question, Greg? Shifting gears
absolutely.
just a little bit. Since you kind of brought up the adding a box, if you're trying to get just say you're trying to get, let's just say honeycomb drawn for honey in the future. How do you configure that? There's so many ways to do it. Do you just slap a box of foundation on the hive? Do you checkerboard it into existing comb? Do you pull up one frame or two and then let them draw from the middle out? How would you draw out more comb in the most efficient way for future honey production?
Great question. And I think it depends. Is it dark? Is it raining? Am I just cracking a lid and throwing a box on top? Because it's going to be raining. It's already raining and I've got 4 more days of rain. Is it dark out? I'm quickly cracking a lid and putting a box on. That happens. But what I would prefer to, let me start with something that I refrain from doing. And I will never, hands down, ever, not on purpose, I will never take a fresh frame of foundation that needs to be drawn. Personally, I will never set that next to a frame that they are currently drawing and filling with fresh nectar. I will never do that. If the honey frame is capped, then I will 100%, I could checkerboard, no problem. But I do not checkerboard fresh frames and foundation right next to open nectar cells, because what those goofs do, Brian's exactly, it just, they will, it's less energy for them to continue to draw out that open cell all the way into the backbone of that next frame. And you'll have this one frame that's got this 3 or 4 inch honey band. And you're thinking, what in the, how am I going to process that? They do that. So I that's one thing that I really try to not do on purpose. If it's capped, then I'll put some in there. What I like to do though is if I already have a honey crop, let's say it's like 70% complete, nearly packed out, and they're working on drying it down or working on capping it. What I love to do is just put that to the top and slip in a fresh box underneath that's closer to the brood, and have them start working on drawing that out. For the most part, I see that helps me do a couple things. Is they can continue to ripen up and mature those top boxes, and then when they're ready, I just pull them off the top, and they still have work to do below. So I'm not in quite such a big hurry to get those honey frames uncapped and spun and then brought back as quick. So for me, I like to under super those frames and have them work those out. That seems to work out pretty good for me. What about you, Bruce?
I do a little bit of all of it. I've historically done that. I've just under supered a box. Gus Mitchell a couple of years ago did a video where when he put the boxes on, if he wanted to draw some frames out, he would just take a box of comb, say a 10 frame box. He'd pull the 2 middle frames out, pop 2 frames of foundation in the middle, put it on the hive, and they just draw them out really fast. But like you say, if they're in the middle of packing out a frame, I think if it's got fresh nectar coming in already, they can tend to draw them out real thick. If you, like you said too, if you stick it in between a couple of capped honey frames, they'll draw it out, cap it, it'll be perfect. One thing, Cayman did a video, it was really good, not long ago, probably in the last 2 or 3 weeks, he did a video where he shows how he draws his out, and he'll put them in. I think he probably puts them in before he puts them on the hive, I guess when it's still dry, when the comb is still dry, but he'll do like a 10 frame or even a 9 frame box where he'll put them like not both right in the middle together. He'll put them kind of 2 or 3 frames in from the outside, maybe go in 3 and then 2 frames or 3 frames, and then put a frame of foundation in the middle, and then the middle ones are comb. So you got basically 2 frames, kind of in staggered, maybe say a third, then a foundation, then a third in the middle, then a foundation, and a third on the outside. And they draw them out really quickly that way. But like you say, you got to be careful popping it in there when they're actively just slapping the nectar in. I think if they start them all at the same time, most of the time, I think they'll draw them out. At least in my experience, it seems like they draw them out pretty good if you put all the frames in there together. But like you say, if you just go into a hive where they're filling a box up with nectar and you pull a frame out, stick a frame of foundation in there, you will end up with like a 2-inch frame of honey. It's just, and it's hard to get the frames out. You have to, because they're so thick when you do it that way. It's
Not just
awesome.
pulling it up. Yeah.
It's awesome to extract a frame like that because it's just so cool. There's so much honey on there. You know, a medium frame will have like 5 pounds of honey on it, it seems like. But it's it doesn't do any good, really. I mean, they'll minimally draw out. They may even cap the honey on the new foundation, but it'll be like a 1/4 inch thick, and the other one will be fat beside it. And it's just kind of, that makes a lot of sense what you said. But that's something I know every beekeeper deals with. We all have different ways of doing that. I'll also say if I'm gonna, I generally do either 8 or 10 frame spacing in my comb, and but I would never put empty foundation in 8 or 9 frame spacing, just all foundation in a box, because they will make that so wonky because there's too much space. And so you need if you're gonna, I think if you slap a whole box on there, it's a good idea just to cram 10 frames in there, push them all together as tight as they'll go, and that'll help stimulate them to, because the bee space is right then, it's correct bee space to have to draw it out. They won't tend to draw it out, especially if it's well waxed. They won't tend to draw it out all wonky that way. So just a couple of thoughts. I know everybody's got their own methods, but I just wonder, Brian, what do you do?
So I used a checkerboard until it got to the point that I was too lazy at times to look at what they were doing. And I ended up with, so anymore now, like I have, for the number of colonies that I have so many frames of drawn comb that I literally I'll under super.
Yeah.
And it's just like what I did the other day, those heavy boxes. I thought, okay, leave them leaning up against the stand. I walked up, grabbed some supers and walked down, and I just plopped the empties down.
That's historical. I've done it. Works well. The only thing I have ran into sometimes is if they don't draw it out to the edges. The middle frames will be drawn out good, especially if it's kind of late in the season, and then they get out to the edge and they'll be partially drawn out and the outside barely drawn out. So then it's uneven. You have to kind of rotate the outside frames in, which works okay if you have any flow left. But if those frames like that sit in a shed for the winter, is the wax going to be as good in the next spring for them to draw them out really good? That's the thing I run into occasionally if they don't draw them all out well. But if in a really good flow, they'll draw them all out and cap them perfectly. But if you kind of run late on the flow, that can be an issue. They like to start in the middle and then go out. Great stuff. I just wanted to ask that question. I know right now people are probably in the process in a lot of parts of the country of just doing that. And so I thought that'd be a good question to ask since the topic is honey tonight.
I under super, but I also do what and I know you do the same thing, is where I leave that little teeny gap.
That works so well, man. I'm telling you.
Yep.
That is an absolute game changer. I think Gus Mitchell does that. I know that Randall Carter did it, and then there's a commercial guy up here and just here in Alabama that did it. Those are the kind of the first guys I heard of doing that. I used to put a stick in there. But man, when I started doing that, they love it. I don't think they even reuse that much for an entrance, but the bees just absolutely love that. They guard it. They're happy. It seems like they're more likely to bring honey above the queen excluder that way for whatever reason.
The stack that I showed, that super where it's under supered, then I'll leave that little gap on the back side, and so it's the top of that box. And when you go out and look, literally every time I go out and when I start a video, or right before, and I'm looking at how things are going, there's no traffic through that. But if you look at it, the entire thing is girls where they're guarding it, and then you'll see other girls with their rears in the air fanning. So they're using it for ventilation.
Yeah, I think so.
And it does help. I mean, I've noticed since that, I'm like, it really helps with those supers.
I don't really do it if there's no queen excluder, but once I put a queen excluder in, if I've only got one box, I put a stick in the corner. Same thing happens in that corner where that stick is. And if I add a second box, then I put the little gap. And it's not big. It's like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch at the most.
Yeah, it's real small.
I've had a lot of people ask if there were any issues with the rain doing that. And there is not. It's such a small gap, and the bees are guarding it really well. And
Yeah.
Especially if you have like a migratory lid, it's going to lip over. It'll cover it. But I've never had an issue at all with that.
Yeah.
And but the bees, I just can't emphasize enough how it seems counterintuitive, but man, it just works so well. I'm a fan, and I've only been doing that about 3 or 4 years now. It works really well.
Yeah, it works.
Anyway.
Well, I want to thank so many folks for tuning in tonight. Speaking of flows, we got the Flow King himself, Keith Spillman, on there. So, Keith, glad you could jump on tonight. DC's Bees, we got Jen and Brian Zavada from Flower Street Farms, Roy Prue, the warden himself, Mr. Mark Basinger is on. Great guy. So many folks. Russell Koopman is on. Sacramento Beekeeper. Really appreciate you guys tuning in every week. Good Enough Backyard Beekeeping. What a great name that is. I saw Ray Lynn from Miss Ray Lynn from Newfoundland was on here as well. Of course, Drop Time Chris. So many great folks. It's always awesome seeing you here every single week. Next week, guys, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Whose channel are we on? Wait, don't tell me, Bruce. We're going to go around the circle and oh, wait, the circle's not right. It goes to Brian next week, right?
Just think clockwise.
Clockwise?
I think it's Connor.
That's right. Well, that is clockwise.
No, we're clockwise.
Okay, how do I tell which is clock? So if I put my hands up,
Well,
the one
on
that
my
makes me
screen,
tell is
On my
left,
screen is
and this-
clockwise, yeah. But we're going to Brian's.
Next
Yeah.
week, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're on the Castle Hives YouTube channel. Until then, Bruce, what's going on this week at Bruce's Bees?
This week, it's going to be minimal. Now, I always say this, minimal bee work, but then I get out there and I just can't help it. I got to crack some lids. But this week, I'm going to go. My main goal this week is to go and just count the number of supers we're going to have. And I kind of put together a strategy for pulling the honey. And that, just go around the bee yards, just kind of look at the outside of the colonies, crack a few lids, but not go through them all by any stretch. We'll get plenty of bee work done the next weekend. And just kind of leave the bees alone unless I detect there's a problem. I've done a lot of weed eating in the bee yards. I've put out some Grobex. I've done some things to kind of get everything under control as far as the grass that grows like crazy all around the colonies, and did some bush hogging in one of the bee yards that was growing up really bad. And so I've got them pretty well cleaned up and looking good. And it's not much fun when you're out there and there's blackberry bushes around the beehives and they get caught on, stickers get caught in your pants and in your bee jacket and everything. So I've hopefully got that under control pretty well too. And now it's just 9 days from now we'll be pulling it. So this weekend, going to count all the supers, see how many we have, put a game plan together with my buddy Rusty, make sure my crew's ready to go, make sure we have all the supplies we need. I think everything's ordered. And so we're kind of in just a calm before the storm period here for the next few days. And then it's going to be crazy for a few days. Not only is it crazy during the harvest, the pulling and the extracting, but then I got to figure out what to do with all the buckets. I got to haul those buckets. Well, last year was over 100 buckets, haul and store them. And then I got to store all the supers, get them all treated and stored. And so there's about probably a week and a half after during the flow, there's probably about a week to a week and a half of just kind of miserable stuff, the not fun stuff. And then it's jumping right into treating, checking treating. And that's when I usually lose some. There's some catch up work I have to do after the supers come off to make sure the hives are, if some are about to die out, I just go ahead and try to combine or take care of that problem or figure out what to do. We'll go ahead and check mites and probably going to treat and just get into the kind of the miserable days of summer. So that's what we have coming up the next couple of weeks. But it's going to be this is calm before the storm, and then it's going to get wild here for a few days, for a few weeks.
Brian, Castle Hives, Northeast Ohio. What's on the books this week?
Yeah. So I'm going to head over tomorrow and set up a couple splits. Got to cruise down to your place then on Friday and pick up some mamas. And just continue to roll. I think I'll probably, while I'm over there tomorrow, the 2 colonies that don't have a third super, I'll just check those just to stay ahead of them. I don't want them to start backfilling just because I do that single brood chamber. You got to stay ahead of them with space, because if they backfill that brood area, you're just setting yourself up for a disaster. So I got to make sure I stay ahead of them as far as that space. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, we're almost, it's like cruise control, I guess, right now, monitoring space, doing a couple other splits just to get a couple numbers built up. But yeah, I love it though. I'm not going to complain about the work. So yeah, really, really enjoy it. So
Awesome. Well, you guys are going to be busy. We're going to be all doing little different things out there. This next week here is just hot and heavy splits. There's been so many fun things that we've been doing with the bees that I wish I had time to actually film them and put the videos out. But it is just not possible right now. There's just so much work to do. That's what the focus is on. And then hopefully at a little later in the year, we can get into it's more relaxed and we can bring everybody along and kind of show what we're doing. We have some new learning yard videos to put out for the members only part of our YouTube channel. Those are always a lot of fun. So got those to look forward to. If you are a part of the YouTube membership, it's like $5 a month, but you can tune in to the shop talk here at the learning yard. And also we take the camera out into the field and always so much to learn and see. We're tracking 3 different package installations at 3 different dates. We're tracking a nuke installation. How are all these packages doing versus the nuke? And they're all installed in different equipment. So that's a lot of fun to be able to see how do they do if they're in an 8-frame medium versus a copper dip deep versus a Propola 10-frame deep versus an APMA upgrade kit. How are the bees reacting? What are they doing? How are they building? How are they growing? But a lot of folks find that very helpful because they can compare what they're seeing in the learning yard video with their package installation on those dates. They can track their progress, compare with ours. And so that I think it's a great resource. So if you haven't already, consider joining the YouTube membership, $5 a month. And you can just join us right here in the shop and for the learning yard and check out all those videos there. So if you're looking for, made in America products, we specialize in premier bee products, Maxent honey equipment here in the shop. So many more to mention, so many great products in here. So if you're considering, hey, I need to spruce up the bee yard, I'm looking to invest and grow, whether it's one box, whether it's one skid or a semi-load, we can help you with that equipment. And we'd be honored to earn your business. You can shop online anytime at naturesimagefarm.com, or you can visit us here in the shop every Friday and Saturday, 10 to 5 here at 1500 Flint Ridge Road here in Hopewell, Ohio, 43746. Looking forward to seeing all of our learning yard folks and our nuke folks. We have pickups this weekend, one more round of nukes the following weekend, and then just some hit and miss from there. So a lot going on. And the kids tell me there's a certain guy on the screen who has a birthday next week. He's going to be 23 years old. I'm not even going to tell you who it's going to be, but time flies when you're having fun. But I just want to thank so many folks. Mr. Matt Cassinger, new member. Hey, thanks for coming aboard. We really appreciate that. So outside of just a bunch of nukes, a bunch of equipment, a bunch of dipping, it's just full on nonstop right now. And there were so many fun things that I wanted to tell you. One thing that I'm really, really excited about, I was hoping to be able to bring some down to Bruce. I'll have to just ship him some. But you talk about just a beautiful creamed honey product. We're able to make just a beautiful batch of creamed cinnamon honey using our Maxent 600, which is just a fantastic creamer. It's so easy that this hillbilly can do it. You can do it too. So just a good equipment really does make all the difference there. Last thing I want to say, the second to last thing I want to say is thanks for Tom and Melissa for joining us tonight. Although their connection was sketch, it sounds like they're in a really similar spot that we are, a little bit warmer with their flow, but what a great family. But stay tuned for the Nature's Image Farm Stream Team July party. Maybe we can get Bruce to even come up here. If not, we've got a big screen TV in here. We'll get Bruce in there, at least the face of Bruce. But let us know in the comments of this video once it posts to YouTube. Would you be interested in visiting Nature's Image Farm for a Stream Team Convergence this year? If so, let us know in the comments below. And maybe we can get a lot of you folks up here and just hang out, fellowship, have a good time. The last thing that I do want to say is it's really important to me right now. It's on my heart. You've already heard me say this and talk about it, but there are folks listening to this right now, and you're going through a storm in life right now, and it may feel like you don't even know when or how you're going to be able to come up and catch a breath. Maybe you feel like you're drowning in all of the things in life. Just know that you are 100% not alone. We've all been there, or we're there right now. You might be wondering, how am I going to get to this next step? How am I going to pay that next bill? How am I going to get the bees to do this? All these things that we worry about. And it is so clear over and over and over and over again in Scripture to stop worrying about those things. And like we mentioned earlier, go back to the Scripture earlier, right? To consider or behold the fowls of the air, they toil not, right? They're not storing away in barns. They're not out there gathering all the goodies and storing them in barns for later, right? But the Lord still provides all of their needs all the time. How much more does He care and think of us? So keep that in mind. God is good all the time. Whether you're on a mountain or you're in a valley, you can trust in Him for everything. And I just want to leave you with that. And until next time, I want to remind you to be the lighthouse and be the change you want to see in this world. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.